So today I have a special guest, Taylor Tracy, in the Coach Me to
Hello.
Lead show. Welcome, Taylor.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
You have been. The fun thing is when I started mentioning that you were on the show to Kendra and Gwen, they were really excited. They were really looking forward to this conversation
That's
because
good.
you have been a coach on Coach.me for a long time and have a lot of experience on this platform and have
Yes.
really good ratings from clients, as Kendra mentioned it from the past. So that's really nice.
Yeah. And it's great to be able to connect with people and not just have those results for my own self, but for those results to mean something in other people's lives.
Right. So there's going to be a couple of topics I'm going to talk about today. First of all, let us tell you, or let you tell the people listening where you are, what you do right now, because you are not coaching today. You are at your
So,
job, work.
yes. So I'm at MIT right now. I work here full time Monday through Friday. Right now I'm in the library, which is not my office. But I work at the nuclear reactor lab and I coordinate educational outreach, which means touring the facility, introducing K through 12 groups, college groups, or even advanced kind of executive education groups, what nuclear is, radiation, as technical or basic as the group needs. Just make it more approachable and something less abstract, more tangible. I don't have a background in STEM, so that was definitely something that really piqued my interest, the disconnect between what happens in like research labs versus what the public finds out. So being able to bridge that gap is really fun and finding new ways to do that.
Yeah, because you started off in well, you did a lot of things, but you also worked in social media and communications and marketing, right? So you have a lot of um, experience on that part that you can use, I guess, in your current job.
Yeah. So when I went to school for, I got my degree in communication and media studies, and I took a lot of psychology courses. I didn't formally minor in the degree, but I wanted the knowledge. And that's something I'm able to put towards my coaching. And the communication aspect of it is kind of everyone's brain is a little bit of a puzzle and just need to see how things align and need to arrange them, which is different person to person. And I have fun with that. And being able to click with someone, connect with them, see how they relate to different things and what they are able to click into and work with that dynamic.
And you started at MIT in 2013,
Mhm.
and you started coaching on Coach.me blog in 2014. Why did you start at coaching next to your job?
So when I started, so I was using Coach.me before it was Coach.me. It was a habit tracking app called Lift. And that is when I was tracking my sobriety back in September of 2013. And I was invited via email in 2014 as somebody with a long-standing track or streak in the no drinking habit, if I'd be interested in coaching. And I had never done it before, but I was interested. And so I believe it was January 2015, I had my first client, and it went great. And ever since then, I just decided, this is something I can do to connect with people and to help them and to relate to them because I went through it firsthand. I'm not somebody who's just read a bunch of books and I'm spewing things at people. Everyone's journey to sobriety or wanting to get sober is different, but the underlying things are still the same. And so being able to connect on that level, even if we're in different countries, different genders, different ages by far, it's been really interesting to have all of that sort of as a melting pot. um, but yeah, yes, I don't know if I answered that question.
Yes, yes, it does. At least a part of it, because you were asked, so that, and you said, and you have experience, and you said yes, so that's good. And also, I wonder how many clients about age did you have in those? Well, was it 8 years?
Yeah, so right now I've been coaching for the past couple of years, or I guess 2 years now, directly on the platform, just because I've been focusing more on myself. You can't pour from an empty cup, and I think that's just something I need to pump my own brakes and be able to have the capacity to take on clients. But even when I was coaching at my full client load, I wouldn't go above 5 and preferably no more than 2 or 3 new clients at a time, just because to give them the attention that they deserve. And there's a lot of unpacking to do in the beginning with anybody, especially when it comes to breaking a habit like addiction. There's a lot of mental health issues possibly or past traumas. And I'm not a psychological I'm a psychology nerd, not a professional. So, and I always make sure to, let them know that in advance, and it'll work in tandem. Sometimes good with their therapy sessions and whatever they want to incorporate with it. Um, yeah, sorry, I have ADHD, so sometimes I forget what I'm saying in the middle of what I'm saying.
Is it because and I think with the conclusion is you do like five clients at a time and no
Mhm.
more than two clients new clients at the same time, so that you have the capacity to give them the attention that it requires to help these people with all the difficulty that's going on.
Yeah, and everyone's timeline is different. It's not a linear thing. Like, okay, in 2 months, I'll be able to accept a new client. So there's no real rhyme or reason. Once I have a certain number of clients, it depends. I might have, if I'm busier in my own personal life, and if there's a client who I just took on who kind of needs more unpacking in the beginning, then I'll turn off my coaching, just to make sure that there's a good ebb and flow, and I'm not leaving anyone out on the wilderness on their own, because that's definitely the support and accountability I feel like are two different things with that habit. And the accountability is there, just having the presence of having a coach, but having the support of an active coach who's checking in on you and making sure you're okay, if they don't hear from you and things like that. I think that really means a lot. So having the time to do that with everybody, um, with a full-time job, means fewer clients, but I feel like that gives them the best experience. And I don't want to give anybody a partial experience since there's a goal. So
And what did you do when people stopped messaging you or replying to your messages for a couple of days?
I would message them every now and then, maybe with a motivational graphic or a meme or something, depending on what the conversation was before then, or just, hey, how are you doing? Or share something about myself. And even though the weather is sometimes a boring topic, and New England is never boring. So asking, hey, how's the weather, is something that I'll ask, because we always have all 4 seasons in the span of 7 days. So just anything to reach out, not even to be like, hey, are you sober? Or have you had a drink? I don't want to nag them about that. I want to make them comfortable. Transparency is a huge, huge factor in my relationship with any client. So if they feel like they're being nagged or home, like, I'm not their parent, you know, they're all adults. They're going to self-report to me. I'm going to check in on them, but I'm not going to scare them away also by, just blowing a whistle at them, unless they ask me to do that. And if that's their way to, have somebody get through to them.
I think that's something that I can do better in my coaching, to be more right, not so focused on the end result and doing like what you do is asking what's the weather or hey, how you doing. That's something I can do more and better.
So,
So what? I'm not sure how much you want to talk about this, but you started with your sobriety journey in September 2013.
mhm.
So you're almost your
Almost at 10 years.
at your decade, your first decade.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and you, I can imagine that was because you were still in school at the time. Um,
Yeah.
so you decided to stop drinking when you were still in university. So you're young.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to go from drinking to no drinking at all?
Yeah, so I was 23. I was born in 1990, so I was 23 when I got sober, which is young. And I lived in a college town, well, neighborhood where the rent is cheap, so we have a lot of college students. We have over 250 colleges in the greater Boston area, so a lot of them congregate to this one neighborhood called Alston. And so you'd hear parties. There would be a bar on both ends of my street and a liquor store as well. So I came from a rough upbringing with an alcoholic, abusive mother. And so it's kind of ironic that I ever drank at all, knowing what could happen to a person. But you're young and you do things. And it wasn't really on my mind when I started drinking. I would black out and it wasn't fun feeling hungover all the time. And eventually, when I got, ironically, like turned 21, because I started drinking when I was 19, I got a little bit bored with it, but then just started drinking, not partying, but like at a bar and then reading and thinking that was like responsible drinking. But I would still have 5 to 6 beers. And for me personally, I should have been at like two or so. And I wasn't able to stay at two because and then it got to a point where I feel, okay, I'm just gonna have one, and one would turn into two, three, four. And it didn't matter that I wasn't falling asleep on the streets or anything like that. I didn't hit a rock bottom. I didn't want to find Jesus or something like that. You know, there wasn't some higher calling. I believe that there's a drinking gene in general, and mental health issues run in my family. So it was obvious as to why I should do it, like the benefits of it. But it did take me from, I believe I started in June. So June to September, I was working on it, and sort of hacking away at what different elements can I put into that, and get me to where I want to be. And there was resistance as well because I wanted to be able to drink. My friends drank and such. I found out that I had a lot of friends who weren't actually my friends, because they shied away from me when I got sober or said that I was trying to get sober. And they really just wanted me to justify their drinking behavior and having me around for that. It took me a little bit to realize that, but eventually just deciding to lay low and, cut off a little bit from all the social stuff, that gave me a big boost to really focus on myself and kind of realize that there's more than, partying and drinking and things like that. And as young as I was, I wanted to be young because I had just started working at MIT as well, and I didn't want to kick myself for not doing it sooner.
Did it, because an interesting topic that we talked about before, to go into this conversation, was because now you are sober for almost 10 years. So the rhythm that you have in the beginning when you were trying to get sober, that's long past. And I know I talked last week with Cherry Jeffs, and she said, well, the thing is that people talk about that it takes like 30 days or 60 days or whatever to get into the habit until you fall from the wagon and you have to start over again. But do you think that, how, how do you think about coaching someone with a practice like yours, when when you yourself have like big, are 10 steps ahead?
Yeah, so that's definitely something that's good about the coaching, is that it brings me back to where I was and refreshes all of that on my mind. So it's not just losing like my own firsthand experience or like memories of that and having that not come across as strongly in my coaching. But I would say that pretty much looking at things more holistically as well, because drinking doesn't happen in a vacuum. And I've never really treated it as such, but building a platform and a foundation for people to build off of that with their sobriety. So in tandem, it's helping them ease off of a bad habit and be able to then launch themselves onto a new trajectory, which is for most people why they are on the path to get sober. They just want to improve themselves in some way. And it unlocks so many doors and so much potential. It doesn't mean those things will automatically happen. It takes work. That work can't happen though unless you get the sobriety work done. And so being able to have, and I'm still a work in progress. I might be sober, but I have a lot of stuff I'm still working on. If I wasn't sober, I would not be working on that stuff. So that's still how I can advocate things. Like, take for me, it's still worth it a decade later. Because, a couple of years into my own sobriety, I was thinking, it's been a couple of years, I have this under control, but I thankfully I didn't drink, but I know myself where a magic wand isn't going to, 2 years is not a magic wand for me. It's not going to undo what's programmed in my mind. I can break free of the habit, but I'm pretty sure whatever cues and triggers are still in there in my head. Because when you get down to like the serotonin and dopamine level of addiction and seeking things out, that's always there. So really just knowing that it's still in play. I still get cravings every now and then, and being able to share that with my clients and how I deal with them now versus then. And I do get questions every now and then about what it's like now. And I always am kind of nervous or I guess nervous or worried that it might come across as unattainable or something, because I feel like I wouldn't have been able to really associate myself with like hitting 10 years of anything. I can't believe it's been 10 years. After 3 years, it was kind of just same old, same old. It was there, and just navigating social situations was the biggest hurdle, or the newest things that I would have to do. But yeah, so basically just really trying to resonate with people and really understand where they're coming from, which is what I do in my coaching anyway, allows me to put myself in their shoes. I'm an empath as well, so that's definitely helping me out in terms of leveling with my clients and really knowing what they're all about, because I might not have the same background as them anyway, even if I was, 3 weeks into my sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, I get a question from Brian Scory, and he's just getting back into the coaching on Coach.me. Is your coaching text-based or phone-based?
They're both, but right now I believe I only offer phone calls right now. That's the best method for me. And I have a preference to phone calls over just text alone if I had to choose between the two, because you can get through a lot more verbally. And also for video calls, you can read someone's body language a lot better. So if I ask somebody a question in an email or a chat, they can delete things. They can write something and then delete it. You can't delete what you've said verbally. And if you have a certain facial reaction, like a subconscious thing, I can't pick up on that in an email. Tone is also lost, and I like, especially in the beginning, getting to know my clients, knowing that they're sarcastic or not, things like that helps. But definitely being able to get through a lot in a shorter amount of time instead of the back and forth. I like emphasizing that, and then having the text base kind of as an in-between sort of booster.
Yeah. And how often then do you call?
So it's really up to the client. I want to try to do at least once a month for people, especially in the beginning. I give my clients a free 30-minute call in the beginning so that they can see if it's something they like, because not everyone is comfortable with video calls in general. So it's really just whatever they want to do. And I'm just here for them. I have clients who will reach out to me via email or even on social media. They'll find me, who I've coached before, and they'll ask me to coach them for a different habit that I have no firsthand experience with, but they trust me. And so I'm like, okay, I can do that, but it'll be a bit more watered down. I don't have this experience, but so those are more text-based only, because I don't have a whole lot to share in terms of my own anecdotes unless they really want to do a call.
Yeah. Okay. Another question by Brian. What types of success have you had with your clients?
I'm pretty sure my first client is still sober. and makes me really, really happy. So I'm really glad about that. I've seen there are a couple of clients who have added me on Instagram after the fact. One person's credited me with saving their life, and I really don't think that. I think that's a little too much, but obviously a lot of people would say that. Even if I said that about someone else, I can expect them to be like, "Oh, that's not. I didn't do that much," but I really am being able to hear from them, not even as a testimonial, but while the coaching's going on, the changes that are happening and having them have their insights be more introspective and positive and being able to take time to reward themselves for rewarding themselves for working on their sobriety. All of that is just really, it's a success for me and them because those aha moments that they get, I share them too. And so it's really nice to see that kind of just spark and light up. Really also the trust that's there that I'm able to have with my clients. It gives me a lot of feedback on my own coaching as well as the dynamic of any sort of coaching and what's needed. So being able to maintain that, I take as success.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I can imagine when your first clients are still sober and you really changed, maybe saved their lives even. I just was speaking to a previous client of mine on the phone, and he mentioned that because he was just been on holiday for 3 months and like a break from his business as a business owner. He didn't bring a computer, he didn't bring a tablet. He had a phone, but he didn't use it to check his email at all. He had like a couple of calls, but that was more like to check and everything was fine. And that's something we talked about like 3 years ago, and now he's doing it. And I think stuff like that just makes it so rewarding and so beautiful that people are making these changes.
Yeah.
Uh, sorry, loving this interview.
Thank you. I'm glad.
Malika, that's agreed. Taylor, I really appreciate your transparency and humanness.
Thank you. That's what I'm here for. That's what I
Yeah,
strive for. I would hope that I am aiming for that. If I'm here saying that I'm good at it, I better be good at it.
yeah, yeah. And very nice. Thank you, says Brian, because
You're
he
welcome.
answers
Thank
this
you for asking
question.
questions.
And
I like
Gwen
that the
is,
questions are also on the screen so I can read them.
yeah, no, that's why I show them because and Gwen says I'm the one behind the LinkedIn account at the moment.
Hi,
So that's,
Gwen.
yeah. So that's good. What I think is interesting to know, because at the moment, you are not actively coaching through Coach.me, and you've been also just coaching through your own website, or people just contact you directly.
Mhm.
Um, what is it you think is the advantage? And I'm not trying to, to
Yeah.
say especially something about Coach.me, but I think it's important to understand. So why do you choose to just go for now for your own direct channels?
For me right now, if somebody wanted to sign up with me, I do give them the option of coach.me and either and I would make a package for them if I were to go that route. For me personally, right now, even my own communication texting is the easiest way to get a hold of me. My inboxes are a nightmare. So, and apps are also a pitfall for me. So trying to check it on Coach.me online is something that I had been trying to do more so than the app. And I write really long messages, especially in the beginning. So I think part of it was also that I had a bunch of drafts that didn't get auto saved that were very long in the app, and then I swiped on my phone by accident and lost them, and it was very sad. But I like the Coach.me platform a lot. I want to do a self-paced sort of course or offer that for people because I have a bunch I can offer people. Time though is a factor, and that's not on my side, but I still want to, get information out there and things like that. I should have you hold me accountable for the cross promotion challenge, so I can write more and put things out there. But I'm not against the Coach.me platform at all. And what I really love is the no alcohol community. When you go to the forums there's so much peer support. I think it is, the last time I checked, it was the most active one on Coach.me, with people chiming in, asking questions, sharing their wins and their setbacks and things like that. So there's really peer-to-peer connection. It's not just a coaching platform as well, which I think people should definitely get into for the sake of tracking their own habits, and connecting with others. Because you also, I didn't know that maybe I'd want to, start writing 300 words a day. And then I saw that as a suggested habit and I was like, yeah, I'll try it. I don't still do that, but for a few months I did and I liked it. So, if you want to try to pick something up, even not as serious as something that you'd want to hire a coach for, it's a free app. And, I need to go in and backlog all my check-ins for things, but other than that, I've been thinking about starting back up on it and using it. So I
Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to show your profile here. So this is you, and at the moment you have just this one, habits beyond sobriety. That's the package on your profile on coach.me. So that's where
Yeah.
people can find you. Just to make sure that people can find you, I'm going to show this. And remove this one again, so people can just go directly to your profile on coach.me and find you there, or connect to other places wherever you are. And you are working on your website, because right now it's not working.
Yes.
Just to make that clear for people just clicking now to your website, you will find an empty page, but we are
Yeah.
working on that, so that's going to
Yeah.
happen soon. That's
It should
good.
be up hopefully today. I have to
Good,
just do my chat support with my hosting
good, 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 good.
company. So I'll be
So,
there.
what do you think is going to be your next step? Because you have a day job, you work 5 days a week, you have a long commute. What is your next step in coaching?
Honestly, I would really love to do either a set of video and like guided practices, or activities and things like that to offer people. Ideally, I would write a book or something like that. But I do kind of want to put out some ebooks or worksheets and see what clicks with people for my own interest, and seeing what resonates with people in general and what mediums are good for that. But also, again, to help people on their own time and on their own terms in the ways that I'm able to do that. So I do also kind of want to do group coaching, which is a little trickier when it comes to sobriety. So that is something that I would feel would be better off for people who are comfortable in their sobriety. And there's something I call hitting your stride with sobriety, and it happens on average around 3 months. People get more confident before they become comfortable in sobriety. So being
Hmm.
able to say, no thanks, I don't drink, should come as naturally as my eyes are brown. Like if somebody were to ask you, do you want to drink? No thanks, I don't drink. What color are your eyes? They're brown. So that's where the comfort comes into play, in terms of that and balancing it out. And so once that all happens, that is the kind of level of where people would be at that I would coach, because I feel people are able to be more open because they're more open in their own personal lives about their process. So I want to definitely offer what people will gravitate towards. So I'll have to figure out what package to put that in and how best to send that out to people.
Yeah, Coach.me is working on that, and there's a lot of progress at the moment with the new features for the coaching groups. And I'm wondering about this, because when you started working on your sobriety, you used habits and Coach.me as a platform, or Lyft at that time. Um, how about AA? Why did you not go for that route?
So I'm not religious personally. I'm spiritual in believing in yourself or believing in whatever works for you. I've had clients in AA. I'm not against it. Whatever works for somebody works for somebody. But it was and I think the groups change what region you're in. Um, it can be a little cult-like to me. Some people, it seems more like a club, but that's just my own personal preference. So I didn't seek that out. I wasn't really looking for a community sort of thing. So I went the mindfulness route instead, and really, and kept myself productive instead of busy. And because busy was a way for me to avoid working on things like the self-reflection and everything else. So the mindfulness was really key for me. And I also have a habit of, when I'm in groups, trying to fix everyone else's problems and not focusing on my own. So I didn't want to do that either. But yeah, I didn't support groups and things like that. I did it on my own. Reddit there's a stop drinking subreddit. And so going on that was great, because at any hour of the day, you have 10,000 or more people talking about things, but it's not overwhelming, and being able to see. Some people would chime in if they broke their 7-year streak, and so that was very humbling. And they had a badge counter next to your name, and you'd have to message a moderator who would manually reset it, and so that gave me more accountability too, which was really nice when Lyft evolved into Coach.me and had a similar but more structured form of that.
Yeah, and that's what I kept thinking about, this idea that the group could be a great addition to your coaching, because it it's I think the advantage is when you have a group is that it's not just you as a coach. You have, like you just mentioned, what you just said already, is you have so many people in the group. You could have so many people in the group, and to keep you accountable, or to just to support you, or just to give some words at difficult moments. And I think that could be an interesting part. And I'm just thinking out loud, because I'm not into the sobriety thing, but I'm also, I don't drink,
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah.
not
I mean,
I'm not.
it's, yeah, people ask me, oh, do you consider yourself to be in recovery? It's like, no, I don't. I'm not a recovering alcoholic. I never really considered myself to be an alcoholic. You don't have to be an alcoholic to not drink. And you don't have to be an alcoholic to have a problem with drinking. If you don't like your relationship with alcohol, then you can do something about it. That's all there is to it, really. And I think that also helps defeat the stigma against getting sober, that drinking, we weren't born to drink. It's not something that we start, at the age of 2 doing. So it's more natural than not. It's really just a societal pressure sort of thing. And I think that really just shows up pretty well when you kind of ask people and frame it that way. But definitely, I think it'd be, as you're saying that, I guess kind of thinking out loud, having a group where it's just kind of a meeting sort of drop-in thing, or reserving it without having it be like a dedicated, you have to be here all 4 weeks sort of thing, might be a good, like, Q&A, asking anything. Because I want things to be personable, which is why I don't want to do just one-sided videos. But yeah, so finding a good mix of the two.
Yeah. So, and if you now reflect about on your 10 years into this, in sobriety, but also into the coaching, what is it that you think is the difficult part, and what is the beautiful part?
I think the difficult part is really just finding out, kind of like getting the skeletons out of your closet and really seeing, oh, that's really what was making me so uncomfortable, excuse me, that I wanted to drink, and kind of self-medicate and numb myself to those emotions. And for me, I had a bad upbringing, like I said, so that was a lot, and that's a downside. But the beauty of it is that there is a healing process. And so if there is any recovery, it's not necessarily the alcohol part, it's the stuff that happens when the alcohol is not in the way. It's the stuff that you're able to do to give back to yourself, to nourish, so you can flourish and just really grow and strive. And I'm still trying to thrive and instead of survive, I guess is what people say. And it goes up and down, but I'm able to focus on things. There's not that mental static in my head from between days of drinking or anything like that. And I still remember what that's like. So if my medication isn't working well, like my stimulants for my ADHD, that really throws my day off, but I'll remember like, hey, that's not as bad as when I was hungover. So it really says something when like your ADHD medication is on the fritz, but you're still able to focus more than when you weren't even drunk, but just hungover. So that alone is a good reason. And it saves a lot of money too.
This is true.
So
It
that's a
is true.
motivator.
Yeah. You, I think this is going to be like my final question. Is you on your profile, because I see this like being an issue for some people, and I'm just curious how you handle this, because you see on your LinkedIn profile your job at MIT, and you also have your coaching, and it's
Yeah,
clearly states that you coach for sobriety.
yeah.
So it could be something that you know sometimes may not be proud of, and it's still visible on your LinkedIn profile. Um, what do you feel about this? What do you how why did you put both of them? Well, not both of them. Why did you add the coaching to your LinkedIn profile and not hide it?
Because my drinking isn't a secret. I would get drinks with my coworkers as well before I got sober. But also, it's not something that I'm personally ashamed of because I'm bettering myself. I'm improving myself, and even if I wasn't a coach, I wouldn't hide the fact that I'm sober. I wouldn't put it on my LinkedIn profile, obviously, because it wouldn't be there. But it's in my Twitter bio that I'm sober, and it still would be if I wasn't a coach, just because that's part of my identity and who I am. So it's nothing that I'm ashamed of. I did, in the beginning, I was a little bit concerned because it's two different professional realms, right? So you have your full-time job, and I'm doing this on my own time. And I didn't want that to cross over, but also like how much do I want my employers to know about my personal life? But they can look me up online if they want to anyway. So, I feel fine with it being on there. I didn't want to have dual titles when it comes up in like a little preview because it gets a little confusing. I'm mostly on here for my full-time job, but I'm starting with the Coachdotme community now being on here. I'm starting to be both. So I'll probably tweak my profile a little bit more to talk more about coaching as well in the future. But yeah, it's not something I'm ashamed of. It's something that even if I'm not actively coaching or quote unquote promoting it for myself, I do want to promote the fact that it is a possibility for people. On my yearly anniversary, soberversaries, I'll post something about, hey, this is my ninth or 10th or whatever year sober. If I can do it, you can too. Like, reach out if you want to. And I've had people not comment on those post, but a couple of years after the fact, message me saying, if you didn't post that, I wouldn't have really considered sobriety. And I've been sober for a year. I didn't help them directly. I never talked to them about their sobriety before then, but to have that influence, which I didn't think I could or would, sharing really, that it does a lot. People don't know what they don't know until they're introduced to it. So the possibility is there. And a lot of people don't think about not drinking because it's so prominent.
Yeah, and I want to bring back this comment. It is your transparency and your humanness, right? That's because by just being open about it and transparent about it, you take people with you on your journey and to help them to start their own journey. And I think that's beautiful. The way that you do this and the way you set it up and the way you handle this and talk about this. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, it's a two-way street. I'm an open book with my clients and in general for most things, because I don't want, how am I going to expect somebody to, make themselves totally vulnerable to me if I'm not going to be totally vulnerable with them? If they ask me something, I'll answer it. And if I'm not comfortable answering it, I'll just say I'm not comfortable answering it. And knowing me, I usually over-explain things, so I'll say why I'm not comfortable answering it, which usually turns into answering it. So, yeah.
Well, Taylor, um, thank you very much for this conversation. Thank you for explaining your journey.
Thank
first of
you.
all, your journey of well, your own path that that you're on, not you had to do, that you're on right now, and being transparent about it, but also how you use that in your coaching. And yeah, my guess is that, and I didn't ask, but my guess is that the coaching also helps you in the end in your job at MIT and working with your colleagues and with the people that you meet there. So yeah, thank you very much, Taylor.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. And I'm glad that, I mean, this is an opportunity that I get to share things. And so this is something that if anybody wants me to share things and talk about things, I will talk about them. So, well, thank you for having me and having an audience here. And thank you for everyone watching this live or recorded. It means a lot to me that people show up.